Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by Bet365. My name is Michael Liebach, and joining me for another handicapping adventure through the Premier League are Anthony DeBundo and BJ Cunningham. But before I bring those two gentlemen in, and we go through every match on this weekend's Premier League slate, and then touch on the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, Ligue, give out our underdog parlay, or three-leg underdog parlay, which oh boy, lost in excruciating fashion for basically everybody except for those who are betting with our sponsors, Bet365. BJ can talk about that when we get to that segment of the show. And then our best bets for the Premier League. But before we get into all that fun, just a reminder that Wondergoal is proudly presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. It believes that every sport should be epic, every tournament, every game, every point, every play, from the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today with promo code ACTION, and you'll get $365 in bonus bets when you bet just $1. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and present in the states of Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, or Virginia. And if you or anybody you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply. Fun week ahead of us in the Premier League, and we'll get things kicked off with the headliner between Newcastle and Arsenal. The Magpies, home underdog, BJ. A little interesting here. They're plus 180. The Gunners traveling as a plus 150 road favorite, so just a slight favorite, but and the draw is at 220. Here's the stakes. Arsenal, one of two unbeaten teams, along with their North London rivals. Tottenham, they're sitting second in the table right now at 24 points, 2 off Tottenham, 7 wins, 3 draws, no losses. Newcastle, a little bit of a starter step here with 2 draws and a win in their last 3 in the Premier League. Overall, 5-2-3 win, draw, loss, and on 17 points. So 7 adrift of Arsenal. Title race wise, close to a must-win game for Newcastle as you could get at this juncture of the season, I would say, BJ. But I don't know. I don't think this line makes sense. Is this a wrong team is favored situation?
Yes, it is, and it pains me to say that. But so coming into this, I was really interested to see what lineup Newcastle was going to play today against Manchester United in the League Cup, because I tweeted this out on Saturday. The second half against Wolves, they looked absolutely gassed from the fixture pileup with having to play the Champions League in the midweek and not really rotating their squad. In fact, they weren't even pressing high against Wolves, which is a staple and why they've been so good under Eddie Howe. So if they weren't going to rotate today, it was going to be really, really concerning if they could actually play the way that they wanted to against Arsenal. Now, they did rotate, so it makes me more comfortable betting Newcastle here. If we go back to last season, Newcastle was closed as a plus 125 home favorite against Arsenal. Now, this is an Arsenal team without Saliba. He is not worth the difference in what the odds are between then and now. And obviously, Arsenal has spent a bunch of money, so their team is. I don't know if you could say they're better than they were last season, but they're different, is what I would say. But in that match, even though Arsenal won 2-0, Newcastle completely beat up Arsenal's build-up play. And that's really the concern here for Arsenal. In that match, Newcastle had a passes per defensive action of 7.5 and only allowed a 78.1% build-up completion percentage. Now, for context, Arsenal's build-up completion percentage last year was around 88%. So it was a very, very good performance from Newcastle. They ended up winning the expected goals battle. They just got caught on the wrong side of variance. Now, Anthony's talked a lot about Arsenal's offense struggling. And they have. But there are a lot of things that have happened that and the guys at Tifo did a great video highlighting of what Arsenal's problems are. And really what it is they are not able to progress the ball through the central parts of the pitch. And that's what made them so good last year. Opt actually just put out a chart today showing the percentages of chances created by the right, left side, or central parts of the pitch. Arsenal is dead last at creating chances through the central part of the pitch. That's really, really concerning. And then 49% of their chances created are coming on the right side because that's where their best player is, Bukayo Saka. He was rested today, which is good news. The other problem is, and Anthony highlighted this last time, is that Arsenal's not scoring early. So they're not benefiting from being up in game state and doing quick transitions and catching teams out of position. What's been happening is essentially teams are playing low blocks. Arsenal has been having to do a lot of ball circulation around low blocks, trying to create chances that way, and it just hasn't worked. So the final thing I'll say about this is that what really makes me worried and why I'm betting Newcastle is Arsenal's defense has been so good. They're only allowing 0.71 non-penalty XG per 90 minutes. That's now better than Manchester City. Where have the chances come for the teams that have created over one expected goal against them, which is Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, and Tottenham? It's mistakes and build-up play is what has cost them. And there is no better team in the world that can capitalize and cause mistakes and build-up play than Newcastle. If you don't believe me, go watch the PSG match. So I'm betting against Arsenal here. I think this is the first time I bet against Arsenal this season, but Newcastle, draw no bet, plus 107 is the best price you can find on that, and it's at Bet365. And this is Newcastle also at home, plus 1.46 XG differential per 90 since the start of last season. So one of the best home field advantages in the Premier League. Really shouldn't be underdogs now that they've rotated a lot of guys in the midweek against Manchester United. So I'll be on Newcastle, draw no bet, plus 107.
Arsenal scored 5. Burned my trash man bet.
You should have said both teams score no like I did.
I know, that was the sharp play. I don't do those. But Arsenal I didn't think Arsenal were that good. I really didn't. The second goal comes from the goalie, making a mistake on a set piece. They finished the game with less than 2 non-penalty expected goals against what we now, and I think can pretty safely say, is one of the worst Prem teams we've seen in a long time. So I wasn't all that impressed. Jesus out again. And I've said my piece on Eddie Nketiah, so I'm going to try to reverse jinx him. He is the best striker in the world.
Thank you. Finally. And
going against him scares me.
Can we clip that, please?
Clip that so keep it forever. But, look, and there's something really interesting happening with the market with Newcastle. Every game, the under takes money. Yeah, look, somebody out there has lost a shit ton of money betting Newcastle unders this year. It took a ton of money again against Wolves. The market has steamed their unders a lot this season, and they've been wrong. I mean, Newcastle's created 3.9, 3.2, 2, 2.4, 2.2 expected goals their last 5 league matches. They haven't played a murderer's row per se, but they're getting a lot of production from not the striker position that's really sustaining them. I mean, Callum Wilson's getting almost 1 non-penalty expected goal per match, which is ridiculous. But Gordon, 0.35 per 90. Almiron, 0.3 per 90. Longstaff's getting a couple good shots a game. 6 shots per 90 from those 3 players, plus Callum Wilson has maintained his form from last year. So the matchup here is pretty simple, and it's kind of how BJ laid it out. Newcastle's at their best when they don't have the ball, and they're able to let the other team have the ball and then break into space with it once they win it. And Arsenal wants the ball. Arsenal this year, I think they're actually better out of possession. So, one potential avenue for Arsenal is to counterpress, right? When Newcastle gets on the ball, immediately look to press them back. Newcastle has not been great in those spots. We saw Dortmund have some success there, but Arsenal's, like you said, been worse in possession, and Newcastle's creating a ridiculous 3 expected goals per 90 at home this year. And so they've been so dominant. I can't get to this line. I think Arsenal's marginally better, not enough to be a road favorite. So yeah, give me the Magpies at home. Even game states this year, Arsenal 1.17 expected goals per 90. So when teams have had the ability to be compact and haven't had to come out and really go after Arsenal, they have been very low event. 0.56 XG against, 1.17 XG for. So their matches have been very slow, we'll say. And if you go back and you do watch that match from last year, Newcastle could have scored 2 or 3 times in the first 15 minutes. Arsenal got a pen, they settled in, and then things changed.
Yeah. Since the start of last season, too, Newcastle has a better expected goal differential than Arsenal also. So that's why they're favored. That's why they should be favored at home.
Yeah, I think so. We're all in agreement. I'll be on the money line. All right, we'll flip from that. That's a Saturday afternoon kick. to Monday Night Football. We haven't had a Monday Night Football game quite like this in a while. Spurs, top of the table, hosting Chelsea, not top of the table. Tottenham plus 110 at home is a favorite. Chelsea plus 225, and the draw on the three-way line is plus 250. We talked a little bit about this last week, thinking that we could see a pretty heavy tax on Tottenham, especially if they got out of that tricky spot last weekend with a win, what they did. And we didn't really see it at all. Spurs took care of business against Palace 2-1, and you'd think that there'd maybe be a little bit of reaction to Chelsea falling to Brentford. They're now 11th on the table and have more losses than wins on the season. So it's been ugly for Chelsea. And the underlying numbers are still pretty good for them, but this is a song and dance we've seen all too often with this iteration of the Blues. That said, I'm closer to betting Chelsea because I can see this line only going in one direction than I would be to betting Spurs. It's probably not going to happen enough for me, but Anthony, I've got no interest in Tottenham at this number against a dangerous Chelsea team, albeit one that falls flat on its face quite often.
Yeah, I mean, the market is saying that Chelsea's better than Spurs.
It's true.
Or even?
Yeah.
Then you strip home field?
I think they're peers.
I mean, go find any Premier League fan or pundit or person on earth who isn't in the betting community and ask them who's been better this season, Tottenham or Chelsea, and they would look at you funny. They would say, well, I mean, obviously Spurs, but have they?
Who has a better expected goal differential, Tottenham or Chelsea right now?
It's Chelsea.
It is.
Of course it's Chelsea. I mean, but again,
but I don't buy it.
Look, Tottenham for a long time had Son and Kane, who were two proven plus finishers, and Lloris was a very good shot stopper. And they outperformed their XG on both ends every year for like 4 or 5 years, the peak years. And, you know, it's too early with Vicario, but they replaced Kane with Maddison essentially in their primary shot getter. Maddison, also someone who has had a proven track record of outperforming XG. And Spurs ran so bad defensively last year because Lloris became cooked. But Vicario is saving them so many goals right now. I mean, he's saved over 2 goals this season just alone. So I think at the margins, like I'm closer to Spurs here. The market just isn't upgrading them. They gave them a small bump. We talked about it last week. I didn't think they played well enough at Palace at all to deserve the bump off of last week. I thought they had a pretty awful first half. Joel Ward turned one into his own net. Spurs had one really good attacking move, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
When you look at this, though, like Chelsea at the margins loses this game, I think, if you think they're two even teams. So I can't get to like Chelsea plus a quarter.
It sucks because the Spurs just don't profile well as a draw team at all.
Yeah,
right? They're so hectic. But
well, here's the thing: are they as bad defensively as we think? Because I'm coming around to this Van de Ven Romero partnership. Like Van de Ven looks really, really, really good, and his speed, and like they're a really good pairing. They work well off each other.
Well, I think the question is have they faced a team that can capitalize off of those, of how Tottenham is playing? Because I mean, they've played, obviously they have.
Yeah. The Liverpool game was
Manchester United.
An absolute mess with
exactly.
referee.
United could have had 3 in the first half.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, they were posts, and they haven't played Everton yet.
Arsenal didn't want to attack.
No, yeah. but they did a great job out of possession pressing Tottenham when they tried to build out of the back. So honestly, these teams play kind of similarly. So it's really just comes down to who's better in build-up play and who's better at pressing. Like, honestly, that's really what it comes down to, because Tottenham has just been way more clinical in the final third than Chelsea has been. Chelsea has obviously created a ton of expected goals and not scored any of them. And I think the reason why all of us are not, sitting here banging the table being like, oh my gosh, regression for Chelsea, is because you saw it in the Brentford.
Because we did that last year.
I know we did that last year for like the whole season, and then it just never happened. And even this season, you see it in the Brentford match. They just don't have anybody who can finish right now. Like they need a proven striker to finish off a lot of these chances. So they're doing an unbelievable job of getting into the final third, getting the ball into the box. Like they were playing well against Brentford for large stretches, and then just what happens? One defensive, they fall asleep on defense. Pinnock goes to the back post, boom, goal, and it's like, all right, now we got to try to break down a low block that is impenetrable. So this is like the easiest pass on the board, I think, just because of how it's priced, quite frankly. Like we talked about it before. If Tottenham was minus 110, I would probably be like, okay, let's bet Chelsea. This is great.
Yeah, same.
But it's not. So I think we all have to pass.
Yep. Okay. We'll see if we can catch a bet here on Fulham and United then. I don't think so with the way this one's priced too, but the Cottagers are plus 230. United out of the EFL Cup, plus 115, and the draw is plus 240. This has got to be it for Ten Hag, right? Like,
it has. I mean, if they lose this, it has to be, right?
Yeah,
it has to be. And I saw something very interesting the other day. He's been playing very attacking lineups, or like subbing in a bunch of attackers. And a lot of people are like, this is what happens near the end of managers when they know the writing's on the wall and they're going to probably get fired, is that they just throw as many attackers on the field as they can and just like hope that they can outscore teams or whatever, or at least make it look, beautiful or good so that they don't get fired. But I'll be honest, Michael, the market has come back a little bit on United. They were sitting around minus 105, minus 110 before this week. Now we're sitting at plus 115.
Yeah.
Fulham's look better though. They have. I thought they were pretty good for stretches against Tottenham. They were good against Brighton over the weekend. They were even good against Ipswich Town today. I lost some money on that one. But yeah, I mean, I have United at I think around minus 103, I believe it is, plus 103, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, even money for me.
Yeah.
So if we get to United plus 125, depending on what the lineup is, maybe. But I don't really want to, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think I'm going to bet him here, honestly.
What's United's best lineup?
I don't know.
I don't think the manager.
Like Hoyland, Rashford, and Fernandez. But then,
what tactics are they playing in this match? Are they going to try to build out of the back, or are they just going to try to play transitionally? Because I don't understand what they're trying to do here. I really don't. It's like a mixture between two things. It's just not working.
Yeah, you won't get me to bet Fulham here.
Yeah, this is too short.
I think way too short. But I mean, hey, you can blind fade United this season. You just make money every week, so it's just free.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what the price is. They've taken money's moved against them now the last 2 weeks, so you're seeing a little bit of market caving finally to the idea that we've kind of hinted at here. But like Hoyland hasn't even been that good. Like he's not gotten a lot of shots. He's played 5.5 matches. He's 11 shots, 1.4 expected goals. That's like not great. Rashford's at like 0.3 per 90. Not
You're
great.
making my case. We're betting United, baby.
Yeah, I mean
this is the bottom. This is the bottom.
It was so bad.
Yeah, they were not good.
So bad.
And they even got to play a change team from Newcastle and got outplayed today.
Yeah,
I know.
But granted, I mean, changed, but they're also like they're starting Garnacho, Martial. Like, those are not good players.
Yeah. I'm gonna be on United. I
love it. I mean, I do, but
yeah, it's
Fulham is still starting Raul Jimenez.
Yeah,
they started him again last week, and it's like what?
That's the thing. Like, it's like as leaky as this United defense is, they're not going up against a.
United conceded 3 goals or more in 6 of their last 9 matches in all competitions. That's freaking remarkable. And like he's got Varane sitting on the bench. He's playing, different. He's playing Johnny. And City, it was the first half I thought United played well. The second half was like a training exercise.
Yeah. So what happens when you fall behind?
Fulham. The question for me here is like, how likely is it that Fulham gets and United's defense, it's a dangerous game to play. But how likely is it that Fulham gets beyond 1 goal in this match? Because I have a tough time, and I know they played pretty well the last 2 defensively against Tottenham and Brighton, but like Fulham, I don't see Fulham coming and posting a clean sheet here. They're just not going to do that in all likelihood. And do they score? Like they've scored 2 or more twice in the Premier League this season, once against Arsenal and the other against, I believe, Sheffield United. So I just think that this is like a classic buy low. So
yeah,
you know,
we'll see if we get plus 125.
just join me. Nah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine right here.
Yeah.
All right. That was a dour conversation. We just shit on a team for 5 minutes, and it ended up with us being like, me betting them and you guys being like, yeah. So that's good. On to Brentford and West Ham now. The Bees plus 100, an even money favorite at home against the Hammers. We're traveling at plus 260, and the draw is plus 250. I think this one is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and we don't like betting Brentford as a favorite generally, but I think with the situation developing at West Ham right now, I think the market has moved. They moved from plus 125 to plus 105, 100 in the last couple of days since the match that West Ham lost on Sunday to the Toffees. But there are some concerns now for West Ham. The first is Paqueta is suspended. He's been one of their best players this year, plus 0.37 XG plus XA per 90, elite defensive work rate. Edson Alvarez is suspended because of yellow cards. Also, there's a big rest disadvantage for West Ham here. West Ham played Thursday in Greece, Sunday against Everton, then played a Carabao Cup match on Wednesday, and then has to turn around and play this match on the road in the league on Saturday. So that's 4 matches in 10 days, whereas Brentford has played 2 matches. They didn't have the Europe, they didn't have the Cup, so it's a pretty big rest advantage. The Hammers don't have a ton of depth here. One of the biggest edges that West Ham has over most teams is set pieces. They don't really have it in this one because the Bees are just as good and just as organized on set pieces. And Michail Antonio, the fact that they went into the season with just him at striker is baffling to me because he's like reaching Jimenez levels of washed. He had one amazing game against Brighton. We all watched it. He was the best player on the pitch. He has averaged in 890s 0.2 XG plus XA per 90, 0.13 XG per 90. That's not a striker anymore. He's got 3 total shots in his last 5 matches. And like I said, all of his production this season came in the game against Brighton when he was rumbling and tumbling and dominating them. So I think that the market is still catching up to the Bees. They're the better team. They're at home. They have advantages in travel and advantages in suspensions. And so, the Hammers just haven't been good defensively, and they're going to lose again. So I'll take the Bees on the money line.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Things are teetering for West Ham a bit here, and it sounded like you just read an excerpt from Winnie the Pooh there, talking about Michail Antonio, friend of the pod. BJ, is it going to be 3 for 3 here on the Bees?
Yeah, this is about as good as it gets for Brentford. So I understand that people don't like to bet Brentford as favorites, but typically what Brentford does is when they're playing in matches like this where they know they're going to be the ones that are going to be controlling a lot of the possession, they actually switch their formation from a 3-5-2 to a 4-3-3. They did that against Burnley. They played Neil Maupay up top with Weiss on the left and Mbeumo on the right, and it actually worked very, very effectively. They created north of 3 expected goals. I understand Burnley got a red card in the second half, but Brentford, since the start of last season, against the bottom half of the table, plus 18.5 expected goal differential in 26 matches. And West Ham, they're playing, we say it every single week, but they're playing the deepest low block of anybody in the Premier League. They're just not good in it. They allowed 0.8 to Everton on Sunday. It's the first time they've held an opponent under 1 expected goal this season. Like, that's how bad they've been in their defensive low block. And again, Anthony mentioned set pieces. West Ham can't defend them. They're 18th in XG per set piece allowed. Brentford, obviously one of the best set piece teams in the Premier League. So the one last thing I'll say about West Ham is typically what are the teams or who are the teams they are good against? Teams that want to either press them high, teams that want to overload the last line of defense, or teams who want to commit a lot of players into the attacking phase of the third. so that they can get those transitional opportunities and face teams that are bad in transition. Brentford is not one of those teams. Brentford, they're not going to press high. They're 16th in high turnovers, and they're allowing the third lowest long ball completion rate. So if West Ham is not going to get numbers in transition and they're facing a good transition defense, I question how they're going to effectively create chances in this match. And Anthony hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's so many advantages from rest and travel for Brentford here for them to be only even money. I mean, I projected Brentford closer to around minus 130. So
121 for me.
Yep. So this is a great spot for them. So yeah, Brentford at home plus 105.
Yeah, I thought Kurt Zuma has been really bad. That's just from the eye test. I don't have like stats on that. It's just my opinion. I feel like he's played really poorly this season.
And Areola is starting to regress from having the insane shot-stopping start to the season as well.
Yeah, he got all of his saves in against Brighton and Chelsea, and now he's a perfectly fine keeper.
Yeah.
All right. Now up to the North Wall, where Burnley's hosting Crystal Palace. Burnley, home underdog, plus 175. Palace traveling at plus 155. The draw is plus 220. Another stylistic matchup for Palace that, I should say opposite attract kind of stylistic matchup. Burnley's going to want to keep the ball on the carpet, knock it around. Palace will be happy to sit back and let them do that, especially on the road. I thought Palace was pretty good again against Tottenham. I think that's kind of just going to be their profile is against teams that have more talent and just play this kind of attacking brand ball on the floor football. Like Palace is always going to be able to frustrate them on some nights, and it's going to come down to if they can make the margin of error thinner or I guess wider for their opponents, thinner for them, and catch the breaks, and they just didn't against Spurs. I just don't think that the number's good enough on Palace on the road here, even against a Burnley team that is a real mess, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, Palace did not press Tottenham whatsoever, and it was pretty effective.
Yeah,
I mean,
why would you? Yeah,
Spurs would just get to the final third, and then they would get stuck, and it was a pretty good game plan. But when you play that style, you can't afford to make the mistake that Ward made that gives the goal. They don't create anything right now. Like, that's the biggest thing. And I think BJ's bet kind of correlates with that.
Yep. Back to the tried and true. Both teams have scored no. Minus 105. Let's talk about Burnley first, because obviously we've talked about how Crystal Palace just can't create anything with Eze, which is just true. The 4 matches that they played, or the 3 matches they played without him, only scored once, created 2.6 expected goals. But Burnley, they suck offensively. They're really bad. They are averaging 0.85 non-penalty XG per 90 minutes, which, if it weren't for this historically bad Sheffield United team that we'll get to in a second, that would be the worst mark in the Premier League. And the problem for them in this match is, per Opta, they have the second lowest direct speed of anybody in the Premier League, behind only Manchester City. So if you are going to play a slow build-up style against a Crystal Palace team that is not going to press you and not let you try to play through the central parts of the pitch, I question how Burnley is going to break down this team at all. And I agree, Michael. I thought Crystal Palace was doing a fantastic job of not allowing Tottenham to play through the central part of the pitch. And you saw what was happening was James Maddison. He's obviously somebody who likes to float around the pitch. His positioning usually isn't in one type of central area. He was playing a lot of times out wide and trying to create overloads on the wide side of the pitch. And that's how Tottenham was trying to create their chances. They got a couple crosses in there. That's how they obviously got the own goal against Ward and scored the goal with Son tapping in the second one. But is Burnley really going to be able to do that against Crystal Palace? No, they don't have the attackers to do it. They haven't shown the ability to do it. And Crystal Palace, even though their defense is, they're sitting around 6th or 7th in expected goals. They've played 4 matches against teams in the bottom half of the table: Sheffield United, Wolves, Fulham, and Nottingham Forest. They've only allowed 3.3 expected goals and 1 big scoring chance in that match. So I don't really see either team putting up a ton of chances in this match. I certainly don't see how Burnley's going to score. I see the only way, Crystal Palace could have opportunities if they turn Burnley over and get chances in transition. But I mean, you saw Will Hughes had a breakaway right away, but he's just slow,
man.
and he got caught. So that's the problem right there. And that's like if you want a clip of what's happening right now with Crystal Palace, that's the clip. If Eze had that ball, it'd be 1-on-1, and he might have tapped it in, and Crystal Palace might be up 1-0. So both teams score no, -105, projected closer to -125.
Yeah, even game states this year. Palace 0.89 XG for, 0.89 XG against.
God love him.
That is pain.
Why?
Burnley.
That's Roy
what it's all about. That is what it's all about.
Burnley plus point. It's not plus. At 0.62 XG for. So
yeah, it's bad.
If there's not an early goal here, this could get ugly
love
fast.
you, Palace. Yeah, could be a 0-0. Look, actually,
Palace is playing the perfect style to finish in the spot they finish every single season in the table. 12.
We love them. Like, it's just there's nothing wrong with what.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. And they're happy.
Teams. And as Anthony said a bunch of times this season, like just with how attack-focused soccer's gotten, especially now in the Premier League, it's made its way to the shores of England, like William the Conqueror. This attack-minded football. It's nice to see a team like Palace stick to their guns.
I will say they will be a very fun buy-on team when Elise and Eze are both healthy. That's going to be very, very
don't let
in December
Roy Hodgson cook.
We've got a stretch in December where Crystal Palace is going to play Liverpool, City, Brighton, Chelsea, Brentford, and Arsenal in a row.
Rolling money line parlay.
Exactly.
with Palace. Yeah, the 0-0 is actually 7-1, so that's not good enough. Usually,
it's not bad.
It's 10.
Based on what I'm reading, it doesn't look like they're that far away.
They're not. It's Eze's, I think, a week away, and Elise's only doubtful for this match. So
I'd imagine he's not back, but within 2 weeks, I think they're both playing again. So,
well, the good news is they might be back when they play Everton after this match, Michael.
Bring it on! Nothing can stop us.
In the league, though.
Nothing can stop us. They'll be back for the holidays, which is actually a good time for me to remind you, dear listener, that the holiday season is right around the corner, and it's about to get busy. Don't let that stop you from sticking to your habits and being the best version of yourself. And that's where our friends at Caldera Lab come in. 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute at night can be all the difference you need to achieve clearer skin for the new year. Caldera Lab are the best in the skincare game right now, and with an easy routine, keep your face looking fresh no matter what, no matter your schedule, no matter how many kids you have, no matter how many bets you've lost. It's just 3 steps. The first one is the clean slate, which is a face wash to start and end your day. The second one is the base layer, which is a daily moisturizer to hydrate your skin. And the third one is the good, which is an eye serum you can put on at night to help your skin look tighter and smoother. Plus, what's a better gift than clear skin? If you join the 100,000 men who trust Caldera Lab now and to show your best self this holiday season, you will have access to our exclusive deal. Use the code GOAL at calderalab.com for 20% off right now. That's 20% off with the code GOAL at calderalab.com. Please make unforgettable impressions with Caldera Lab. You mentioned Everton, BJ. We can talk about them all you want now.
Okay.
They are a absolute barnstorming team right now. They're plus 220 this weekend, though, a home underdog hosting Brighton, who are plus 120, and the draw is plus 240. I think of all the matches, there's maybe one we'll talk right after this that might have a little bit more chaos in its script, but this one sets up for something strange, and I think you don't have to go back that far to find proof of that, which was 7 months ago when Everton went to Brighton as a big underdog and absolutely wolfed them up for breakfast. Final score 5-1. Scored within the first 45 seconds and didn't look back and had Brighton just all out of sorts. It was an absolute carnival and confusion for me watching that match.
That's what let them stay up.
Yeah, that performance, man. And I'm not saying it's going to be that again, But I think that's how you should bet this game, is kind of just to throw the normal outcomes of a Premier League match out the window and embrace the chaos here and find your bet if you want to play this one. The line looks about right to me, but I think you could definitely have some fun here, BJ, with getting down with some funky stuff.
Yeah, I like over 3 goals to minus 110, projected 3.7 for this one. What worried me trying to analyze this match is, De Zerbi knows that. He knows what happened, and I worry if he becomes a little bit more cautious, but that's just not his style. And I think what gets lost in that 5-1 defeat, Michael, is that Brighton, they took 24 shots, controlled 78% possession, and they created 3.2 expected goals. That was their 5th best output under De Zerbi during the entire season. Like, the Everton defense wasn't really that good. They got penetrated multiple times, similar to I know that Brighton over the weekend in a bad spot against Fulham did not have a good performance, but they were penetrating the box very, very well against Fulham and were getting good chances. They just weren't getting good shots on the end of them. Ended up only creating 1.4 expected goals. But now that Brighton is out of the League Cup, they had a full week of rest. You'll see a full strength Brighton lineup on Saturday against Everton. And Brighton, even if Everton decides to sit back, even if Everton says, you know what, Brighton's trying to bait us, so we are not going to take the bait. We're going to sit in a mid-block, similar to what we did last season, try to get turnovers around the midway line or even in our own final third, and then try to hit them in transition that way. Brighton is one of the best teams, not only in the Premier League, but in the world at breaking down low blocks. I mean, the positioning of the wingers, whether it's Matoma or if it's Solly March or Ndringa, it's really, really good what they're able to do. So against Ajax, when they were trying to play 5 at the back, Matoma and Ndringa both went centrally, and they forced and pinned Ajax in and then allowed the fullbacks to overlap and create a bunch of chances for your crosses that way, or we're just basically playing through balls right through their defense. Now, Ajax is in a very, very bad spot right now, but over the weekend against Fulham, Matoma was playing out wide, and they were just getting him in one-on-ones the entire time. He kept penetrating the box that way. So the question is that can Everton defend that? I'm not so sure that they can. And even if, Brighton, they obviously love to overload the middle of the pitch to get Matoma in those one-on-ones. It's a very, very dangerous game to play against them. Brighton, second best final third to box entry conversion rate, which is very, very impressive for a team that gets a lot of final third entries like they do. But Brighton is always and still is very, very vulnerable in transition. They've switched their build up to a 3-2-5 instead of a 4-2-4 because they were getting just trucked through the middle of the pitch in transition moments. So they've basically added a little bit more into the middle of the pitch to help them when they're, when teams are going at them when they lose the ball. But I mean, this is the Everton offense, Michael. This is a juggernaut they're facing. 1.54 non-penalty XG per 90 minutes. That is 9th in the Premier League. But again, like we've talked about, there's so many offensive-minded teams now that 1.54 is 9th in the Premier League. So that's a really, really good output for Everton. And, if you take out the matches against Liverpool and against Arsenal, Everton has created over 1 expected goal in 6 of the other 8 matches. So again, even if Everton decides to sit off, I don't think they're good enough defensively in a low block against Brighton, but they are incredibly dangerous in transition against Brighton. So I'm expecting chaos here. I think you will see a bit of a slow match to begin. I think that Everton won't take the bait, similar to how kind of the Fulham match started, where Brighton's just passing the ball back and forth between their center backs. But eventually, someone will get impatient, someone will take a chance, and that's when chaos can happen.
Yeah, I mean, Everton didn't really show much interest in attacking against West Ham.
No.
They've done that a couple times this year where they're just like, yeah, we're just not going to attack. They could try that again. I agree with BJ, though, it won't work. It's funny. We talked about Baleba a couple weeks ago.
He's great.
Coming in, and he is good. And I said, he's really going to stabilize the defense. And their defense has played better the last few matches. I thought they played well against City for most part, except for the Milner versus Doku situation out wide. I thought they played pretty well against Fulham. They end up conceding a goal. They haven't kept a clean sheet all year. Problem, but 0.7 XG, it wasn't a bad defensive performance. Fulham didn't create a ton. They dominated Ajax. So, as Baleba's played more minutes, and then you pull up the shot chart against Fulham and you're like, oh, Baleba, the guy who's supposed to be the defensive midfielder, actually took 4 shots.
Yep.
It's hilarious. peak De Zerbi. Somebody tweeted at me that this is my derby. We love these teams.
Yeah.
As a result, I'm actually higher than the market on both and think that the line's actually right.
Me too.
So I don't have a bet here, actually. So I'll be passing, but I'm most excited of all the matches this weekend. I'm most excited to watch this one, just from a tactical matchup and how both managers will approach it. I think there's more to learn about it than maybe obviously the two big fixtures being what they are.
I just said how the 0-0 for Burnley and Palace is sitting at 7-1. Brighton, Everton's 14-1.
Okay.
14-1's not even close to good
Not
enough.
I was gonna say.
No, I was gonna say, hey, maybe if we get 25, maybe.
Yeah,
but
20-1 and maybe. All right, City and Bournemouth now. Citizens are the biggest favorite on the board. They're minus 1,000. Bournemouth 16-1, and the draw here is 9-1. This one, like, every bit of me thinks this is just one-way traffic, and City can name it, and you should. I would. The only thing I'd be semi-interested in playing would be team total over like 3.5. But I'd also think like this could be our 8-0 game on the season, right? There's one every year, and this one kind of has the right recipes for it, BJ.
It is. Euro, he lives and dies by his hybrid press, and that's not going to change against Manchester City. You've seen it against the top teams this season. They've got played off the park. And I really, really worry what's going to happen to Bournemouth here if they continually try to press high and disrupt City's build-up play. They could pick City off and maybe get one transition goal. That's like the only chance they have here. But outside of that, it's going to be one-way traffic. And I really just don't see a scenario where they're going to, even if they try to, their team is not set up to sit in and try to defend. They're going to be missing a few guys here that are pretty important. Lewis Cook got suspended in the last match. Obviously, Tyler Adams has been out for a long time. And they're on a backup goalkeeper right now because Neto is out. And the backup goalkeeper is pretty bad if you've watched the last few matches. So really, really bad situation here for Bournemouth. Could get out of hand. I'm passing on it. I just, City obviously in a look-ahead spot with, facing, I guess it is young boys in the Champions League.
It's young boys at home.
Yeah, so I don't really, it's a pass.
They could take Holland off. Maybe hop in live if they do.
Yeah.
The thing is, right, like, so City, you can tell a lot by how they play their lineup. If they're putting Grealish and Doku out there, they're just like going full bore tilt. And Bournemouth has no chance in that matchup. I mean, they, like you said, they could steal a goal. It's still 90 minutes of soccer, but City appears to have, Pep has responded to how poor they were in those 3 straight matches from an XG perspective against Wolves and against Arsenal and then against Brighton, and they just completely pumped young boys and destroyed United in the second half.
Okay. We're going to do it now. Sheffield United time, baby.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Plus 280 at home. Against Wolverhampton. Wolves are odds on, minus 106 on the road here. And the draw is plus 240. And I think we are, we kind of trend towards being a Wolves podcast more than not being a Wolves podcast. So the fact that we're saying here that, this line looks a little crazy, shouldn't be taken, all that light. Like, this isn't last year's Wolves team.
Another Wolves over last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They are, Wolves are, by the way, are one of 4 teams in the Premier League with the same exact record, win, draw, loss, which is kind of funny. 3-3-4, along with Chelsea, Palace, and Fulham. Minus 4.7 expected goal differential overall. Not good. Light years better than Sheffield United, which is bottom of the barrel in basically everything. Every number you look at this Premier League season, minus 16 expected goal differential. They are creating way less than 1 a game. It's so ugly, BJ, but it's just a numbers thing. Like,
yeah,
This number's it's too high. The number's too high going to go against Wolves, or if that makes sense, right? Like I'm getting a good enough number to go against Wolves on the road is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So I mean, the big talking point here is obviously Pedro Neto's out for this match for Wolves, which is, I mean, you can make the argument he's maybe the most important player to a single team so far this season.
Yes, you haven't said that in a few weeks. Let's bring that one back.
Yeah, now we're back. Let's just run through the numbers right now. Carries into the penalty area. Pedro Neto, 24. Next closest is Cunha with 8. Passes into the penalty area. Pedro Neto, 20. Next closest, Semedo with 9. Key passes. Pedro Neto, 25. Next closest, Cunha with 8. I mean, Neto's got 7 assists on the season already. It's crazy how good he's been. So without him, where's going to be the creative aspect against a Sheffield United team that, Michael, they're so bad. They really are. But they weren't that bad against Manchester United. They weren't that bad.
That doesn't mean anything.
They weren't that bad against stretches against Arsenal. What they've done is they've switched to a 4-4-2. They said the 3-5-2 ain't working, so let's go to 4-4-2. They were condensing the space in mid-lines. They were like, Arsenal's not playing through the middle of the pitch. Well, yeah, eventually Arsenal got through. But again, if they're going to take away the central parts of the pitch and they're going to play that 4-4-2 and they're going to let the Wolves have the ball in wide areas and Pedro Neto's not there, then who's scoring for Wolves? Now,
Sasa.
Wang's been
Wang's been
best
amazing
player in the
world.
But who's been feeding him everything? Pedro Neto. So, so it's a Sheffield United spot. It's about as
okay. How are we not on the under then?
It's about as gross.
How are we not on the under?
Because their defense is so bad. It really is.
But are they going to outscore? Are they going to go score up? Like they started Rhian Brewster against Arsenal last week. He's terrible. That was the main guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Like under 2.5, right? Is that not better than +0.5? Like I don't know. Like in what world is like Sheffield scoring multiple times?
They did against Everton.
Yeah.
I mean, they had better.
They have. I was looking at it earlier. I mean, they have actually scored in all but. They scored in 6 of their 4 matches, or 6 of their 10. Excuse me, 6 of their 10 matches. They just didn't score against West Ham, Newcastle, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace.
Those are pretty good defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, this team could score.
They haven't created over 1 point. I mean, with a penalty against United, was 1.4 is their best output this season so far.
So they have not cleared one non-penalty expected goal all season.
Against Everton, they did. That was the only, that and West Ham were the only 2 times they've cleared one non-penalty. So it's not good. But again,
they should have scored again. How bad? By the way, West Ham's defense giving up that much to Sheffield. I think we all bet them that game, and they should have covered and didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So, at home, this is the spot, Michael. Let's see. Sheffield's got Brighton coming up on the road next. That could be really bad.
Oh, they'll score in that one. Everybody scores on Brighton.
That's true. Then they got Bournemouth and Burnley after that. So
wow, another money line.
They played a tough schedule. So if you just schedule adjust their numbers, I mean
they're top of the table. They're at least.
And then after Bournemouth and Burnley, they got Liverpool, Brentford, Chelsea, Aston Villa. So, yeah.
Good Lord. All right.
This might be it for Heckenbottom, though. This could be it for him. Maybe that. Why couldn't they fire him before this match? We get some new manager bounce.
No, you want the first. You want them to win one for the gaffer, just like United. You can make a little. Win one for the gaffer parlay there. All right, so it looks like Blades, Anthony, maybe on the under for that one. Let's go to Forest and Villa now. Forest plus 320 at home. Aston Villa odds on at on the road minus 118, and the draw is plus 260. This is a great place to bet Nottingham Forest. This is a good number, Anthony.
Yeah, let's make it 2 straight weeks on the Forest.
Yeah, your boys, the Tricky Trees, baby. I think Newcastle, Aston Villa's numbers look better of late, but it's 10 matches into the season and the defense still leaks. Or overall has been leaky. Their expected goal differential should put them a little bit closer to mid-table than fifth. We kind of saw this song and dance since Emery took over last year, so maybe I'm underrating Villa and we love the guy for the run he gave us with Villarreal a couple of years ago in the Champions League. And he's a great manager. I just think when your defense looks like this, it makes you a little vulnerable as this big a favorite on the road against a Nottingham Forest team that's winless. Since the last international break, right? Like five matches,
five without a win.
Streak.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Villa unbeaten in 5. Yeah, all the buy low, sell high.
This is if you had to make a buy low, sell high 101, this is the one. And you're gonna need Forrest to score. Like they don't do that all that often.
Taiwo's back though.
Yeah, that's the key here. I think he still leads them in goals with 3.
Yep.
With the way Villa defends, I think they have a chance to be dangerous here. It's just it is a little ugly with just 3 goals scored in their last 5 and 7 goals scored. 5 goals scored in their last 7. It's over last 8. They don't score much, but with Taiwo back, a little more teeth in this offense, baby.
Now Chris Wood's down.
We love Chris Wood though. I'm so happy he's still kicking around.
So Taiwo comes back, and the thing that Taiwo does is he gets a couple of very high quality shots every match, and they usually come in transition. He gets in behind the defense, and he's able to shoot. His average shot distance this year, 9 yards. It's one of the lowest in the Premier League of anybody who takes a regular number of shots. Well, that's basically Villa's problem. They conceded the 3rd fewest shots in the league, which generally I would say volume matters more in terms of predictiveness than quality. You can concede a couple of fluke high big scoring chances, but if you're not conceding a lot of shots, generally I think that makes you a good defense who had a couple bad breaks. But when you watch Villa play, it's very obvious what's happening. And it's this suicidal high line with very average defenders. And they concede the 3rd fewest shots because they catch people off sides a lot and they don't give you a ton of possession in their final third. But when they do give up the chances, they tend to be one-on-ones. And that's where Taiwo, I think, is really good. And I think that's where Gibbs White, when you're playing Villa, you need a guy who can pick the pass. When they play the top teams like Newcastle and Liverpool, who have, Guimaraes and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and they can, runners in behind at all times, it is very easy to get in. Even Wolves created almost 2 XG against them with Nato running his magic. And I think the Trees have that guy. It's Gibbs White. So, look, the Trees are night and day from last year. 20th in pass per defensive action, 20th in final third entries allowed. They're going to let Villa have the ball. But we've gone from Villa closing minus 120 at home against Everton to now being minus 125 on the road at Forest. That's a pretty big upgrade, given that the market's pretty comparable on Everton and Forest coming into the season. So, market likes Villa. I'm kind of a little more skeptical. Just like you said, their defense leaks so many big chances. If you take the first one, they're up against it. So yeah, Trees plus a half.
Come on, BJ.
I'm passing. The thing with Aston Villa is if you truly dig into why they overperformed last season, it was performances against teams in the top half where they overperformed all their expected metrics, ran very good. But when they played against teams like Nottingham Forest in the bottom half of the table, they cooked them repeatedly. So, I projected Aston Villa pretty close to around where they are here in the market. Passive teams really worry me with Aston Villa because they are good in build-up. Like, they're not elite in build-up, but they are good, and they are pretty good at breaking down these teams that want to play low blocks. Now, I know it's not a good comparison, but, they have consistently been putting up over 1 expected goal against these teams that are playing somewhat or some type of a low block. Against Crystal Palace, I know a lot of it came late,
That was a luck box.
If it still created 3 expected goals. Wolves 1.6.
I think 2.5 of it was
1.9. Luton Town, a great defense that we'll talk about next, 2.3. Yeah, I mean, I understand that Nottingham Forest is kind of trying to get into this Brentford mold of just like, hey, you can get in the final third, but you're not going to get into our penalty area. Yeah, it's just, I'm just going to avoid it.
Okay. That brings us to.
I'll let you know. I'll watch Nottingham Forest win 1-0. I won't cry over it.
You'll have a piece of Nottingham Forest because, and well get to that later in the show.
I think that thing's gonna win this week.
Luton Town, 9-1 at home, hosting Liverpool -400, and the draw is 5-1. Luton Town, I think we've given them credit. Maybe more credit than most other folks do. Feisty bunch, the Hatters are, and as we've kind of said a few times now, clearly not the worst team in the Premier League as we expected them to be. They might not even be like one of the bottom 3, just overall right now. So does that mean that they're going to put on a show against Liverpool? I don't think so. The number's not high enough even at home. For me,
my break's going to extend for another week.
And Liverpool might be the best team in the league.
They might be. Gravenberch in there makes them a lot better at defending teams in transition. Curtis Jones, is he back this match or in the next one? I can't remember which one.
He won't start, I don't think.
I don't know. My point is they have options now, whereas in the beginning of the season they didn't have options. So, or at least they didn't play those options. So I was going to make a case for both teams to score at -120. The price is a little juicy because if you really think about what Luton Town is or how they create their chances, it's just crosses. It's just getting the ball out wide. And since Liverpool is not allowing central progression with Gravenberch in there, and with the way they build up, the way they invert Trent Alexander-Arnold, like there's space available in wide areas. But given what Nottingham Forest, the performance they had against Liverpool, that makes me very, very skeptical because they play a very similar style to that of Luton Town. So breaking is extending another week. And yeah, Luton Town.
We'll see if you'll bet Luton Town.
I'll tell you what. I will be on them in their next match. You guys want to take a guess who they're playing?
Go for it.
Got to be Man United.
United.
Yep, at Old Trafford, and we're gonna get Luton Town Michael at 10-1. United's -375.
Yeah,
exactly. 75.
Sign me up for that, please.
Yep.
Okay, that's the Premier League done and dusted. On to Europe at large. The Bundesliga, Anthony. What do you got?
We got a big one this weekend.
Do we?
The Fraud Bowl. Being the third and fourth best team in the league, maybe. Bayern versus Dortmund. Der Klassiker, as they call it in the States. It's a terrible nickname. I mean, look, we got to talk about Bayern again because they lost today to Saarbrücken, and a third division German team who closed 50-1. Bayern started 7 of their 11 normal starters in the game, created less than 1 expected goal, lost 2-1 in stoppage time. And am I mad I didn't bet Saarbrücken? Yes. But it's just another data point. This team, yes, they scored 110 goals against Darmstadt, who was down to 9 men early in the second half last week. Sorry if you bet Darmstadt. I know our friend of the pod, HU Capper, was feeling real good about Darmstadt +3 when they were up a man 5 minutes into the match. And I was like, oh, you're golden. And then they got 2 red cards and gave up 8 goals in the second half. So I don't care how many, if they put up 110 XG and 110 goals on Darmstadt in the Bundesliga. You play all your starters against that team who's 15th in the third division. You lose to them after you have a shit game against Galatasaray. Mainz has had 1 good game in a month, and it came against Bayern. Copenhagen played him off the park for an hour. Galatasaray played him off the park for an hour. Man United had one of their best stretches of the season in the first half against Bayern. This is getting weird, and I want to bet against them. I think there's going to be value in going against Bayern every game until the market corrects for the fact that they're just not the same team. And look, I know their numbers in Germany are really good. I think Germany's down. I'm kind of down on Dortmund. I'm reevaluating my priors on Leipzig. And even that second tier, like the Europa level teams, don't look great to me on paper. But this Bayern team is not right. And you could say, oh, they're going to be angry now, bounce back, bad loss. It's the biggest match of the season for them. So yeah, I expect them to be up. But I don't think they're that good. And when the game has gotten frenetic, like it did against Galatasaray, they were getting outplayed. And Dortmund is very comfortable in that kind of game. Dortmund is not going to come out here and sit. Bayern has not been good at keeping control of games. And so when they turn that dial toward like, let's cook, they have just gotten cooked. So yeah, give me Dortmund plus a half. And then I do like the Mainz Leipzig under as well. 3 goals. Leipzig has had a historic run of overperformance. They're not getting great shot volume or shot quality. They're bottom 3 in shot distance. Middle of the pack in shots for. Their XG in even game states is below 1.3 per 90. Their actual goals is like 2 per 90. So they run really good early. But I think Mainz will shore up the defense. There is no saving right now. It looks like this Mainz attack, though. 8.6 XG in the Bundesliga after 9 matches. That's a really, really shame. So I like the under 3 goals in that one at Mainz. I think they have a good defensive performance, but they can't score. So under.
What do you got, BJ?
How about the Friday afternoon kickoff? Bochum Darmstadt, one like Anthony just mentioned. Let's go over 3 goals, a plus 110. 2 of the worst defensive teams in the Bundesliga. Both of them are sitting, bottom 3, 4. The thing about it is both of them are very direct transitional type teams, really want to get out and play. So typically when a match like that happens, teams that aren't good defensively in whatever type of defensive shape they want to play and they want to play transitionally, it usually leads to a very end-to-end style match. And I think that's what you'll see here. So projected 3.2 goals. So over 3, a plus 110 for the Friday afternoon kickoff between Bochum and Darmstadt. Is good enough for me. The 2 guys that got suspended for Darmstadt against Bayern were one of their center backs and defensive mids. So also makes them more vulnerable defensively.
And you are the only one with a play in Serie A.
Anthony's going to hate this play. Juventus,
it's
pick them. Juventus pick them at Fiorentina. I think Juventus is good again.
I agree.
I think the process numbers are good now for them. And I think this is a good spot to back them. I think they should be a pretty odds-on favorite here against Fiorentina, who is having good process numbers, but if you dig a little bit deeper, they really are not the team that they were that underperformed last season. Like, yes, they still have good expected threat numbers, still good field tilt numbers, still causing a lot of high turnovers, but they're 13th in expected goals for, 13th against, and they are allowing teams to kind of play through them a little bit. And Juventus, listen, this is what's going to happen with Allegri. They are as passive gets. They will let you literally just walk into the final third without any type of pressure whatsoever because they're 17th in final third entries allowed. But once you get there, you're not getting in their penalty area, and you certainly aren't creating a big scoring chance against them. Juventus is allowing 0.64 non-penalty XG per 90 this season. That is, I believe, the best in all of Europe so far through 10 matches. And I get it. They have not played a very difficult schedule. They played Milan up a man for most of that match, so it has been pretty favorable here for them. But when you look at what Fiorentina's schedule has looked like, they were off this week, but they have also had Europa Conference League duties that they've had to attend to. Juventus has just been gearing up and playing in Serie A the entire season, and the offensive numbers are pretty good too. I mean, they're 3rd in expected goals for, so I think this Juventus team is pretty good, and I think that the numbers are showing that they are returning to some of the Juventus teams that we are used to, not necessarily dominating Serie A, but being a title contender and not a 6th or 7th best team like they have been for many years now. So Juventus draw no bet at minus 120. Actually projected them at minus 110 against Fiorentina here, who have had some pretty fraudulent results when you look back. And their last 2 Serie A matches have been pretty bad as well.
Yeah, Lazio getting a 95th minute penalty to beat them on Monday was hilarious.
Lazio. But Fiorentina,
it turns out Federico Chiesa, pretty good.
Yeah, Lobet's having a decent season.
Yeah, Keane's been good.
Kostic has been great as well.
And you guys are on the same team in La Liga, Anthony.
The nobody in Europe is running worse than this Vigo team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. They play Real Madrid. They get a goal varred off because Kepa stinks, but because the guy like briefly touched his shirt, they overturned the goal. That would have put them up 1-0 inside 5 minutes. They lead 2-0 at Barca, and Barca goes God mode for like 5 minutes and scores 3 bangers on them. They play Girona. They get a goal varred off, which the goalie drops the ball, and then the player runs into him after the ball's already past him, and they call it a foul. That was bizarre. And then they concede in stoppage time on a shot from outside the penalty area to lose to Girona. And they've had 3 goals that have cost them points directly, just varred off. Nobody's running worse. Now they get Sevilla at home. They're a pick 'em. They're better than Sevilla. Vigo, baby, round. I don't even know how many times I bet this team. I never actually win their bets. They also lost to Las Palmas in stoppage time after a dodgy pen in the last kick of the game. So nobody's running worse than me betting Vigo. So let's keep doing it.
Well, let me join you.
I forgot. Vigo dominating Atleti, red card. So, that's a little bit on their own, but
and they got stoppage time against Girona last weekend.
No team in Europe has cost me more money than this team. I've been getting killed in Spain because of them. So let's keep going, baby.
Yeah. For those who don't know, I don't know if Anthony's already mentioned it, but if you're unaware, Rafa Benitez is managing Celta Vigo right now. And they are playing as passive gets out of possession. So they are going to let Sevilla get the ball in wide areas and try to cross the ball in, but they've been very good at defending those. And then they've been very good in transition offense as well. And that's how you beat the Sevilla team, is that
they're very good.
They are a very good team. They've drastically underperformed. So I'm going to join Anthony on the losing train now. I've avoided a lot of them early. So I'm going to join.
This is the time to back Vigo. BJ's coming in to save me. Might have to martingale them if they lose here. I'm going to have to start a martingale.
Anthony's drowning, and I'm jumping in without a life jacket on, trying to save him.
I'm drowning. That's for sure.
I'm going to come in. I'll hop in there.
How can you not back Rafa?
Yeah, let's. Ligue 1.
Oh, speaking of buy lows, Leon minus 145.
Good luck,
boy. So for those who are unaware, Leon, who is historically probably the second or third biggest club in France, they're in last place right now. And things are getting really, really bad. If you saw what happened over the weekend, what happened to their coach, Fabio Grossa, and had the Marseille match postponed, you can just go look it up. It's bad. But
the fans hit him in the head with a rock.
It's bad.
He was bleeding from his head.
He was. You can go look it up. It's really bad.
It's worth reading, but it's freaking insane.
Yeah, it is insane. But
people say Maction is crazy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, the French fans, they're crazy. But I think this is a good buy low opportunity because they are playing, for my money, probably the least talented team in France by far. It's Metz, who just got promoted. The underlying numbers for Metz offensively, they're dead last in everything. They are a terrible, terrible offensive team. And defensively, they just play this low block, and they're pretty effective at not allowing people in their penalty area, but they're just allowing so many final third entries. And the process numbers, it's not like Leon is just, yes, they have a minus around 8 expected goal differential, but the last 2 matches, they've won their XG battle, haven't got the result they deserve. If you look at their offensive numbers, they're still 6th in final third entries, 7th in shots, 3rd in final third to box entry conversion rate. Like, it's still decent process numbers. And then defensively, they're dead last in terms of expected goals allowed. But in this match, they are a decent pressing team. They are going up against a team that's the worst team at playing through pressure, that basically only creates anything in transition. So this line probably would have been minus 250 if the season started right now and all this stuff hasn't happened to Leon. So I think we're getting a decent price on them. I projected them at minus 180. So they have the rest advantage, as terrible as it sounds, but they do have a rest advantage. This will be their 3rd straight home match. So it's a good spot for Leon to get things going in the right direction.
Yeah, I like Lille again because I bet Lille every week. Lille is to me what fading Salernitana is to BJ in Serie A.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I bet them last week against Monaco. I thought that was a good buy low, sell high. This Lille defense is much better than the Marseille one. Marseille's defensive numbers, they're fourth in non-penalty expected goals. It looks great at the surface, but if you look deeper, it's very mediocre from a ball progression allowed and from a field tilt perspective. So I'm kind of down on this Marseille team overall. And I know we bet them to win the league I bet them to win the league last year, but they have not
It was a mistake.
Taken a step forward at all.
Okay. Underdogs time. So last week we gave out Everton and Brentford.
Winner.
Then BJ gave out Frosinone.
Anthony, can you pronounce it correctly, please?
Cagliari.
Cagliari. No, Frosinone.
Frosinone.
They proceed to go up 3-0.
Yep.
Yeah.
Second half.
They proceed to lose 4-3.
2 goals in stoppage time conceded. I had my friend who actually works for Bet365 came up to me on Monday at our softball game and was like, dude, the Underdog Parlay. Well, BJ cashed. Congrats to BJ because he bet through Bet365 and got the early payout because they were up 2 goals. Us plebeians who did not bet through Bet365, which was a huge mistake, did not cash.
Not living in Iowa, man.
Michael, I think that the finger needs to be pointed with blame.
I will not take blame for this.
And it needs to be pointed at the guy in all orange right now. Because what happened is that he'll never learn. He'll never, ever learn. He'll never learn. When Frosinone, or however you pronounce it, went up 3 goals, we got a text in our group chat. It said 1 time Everton.
That was because they were kicking off.
What happened within 5 minutes? Cagliari scored immediately, twice, bang, bang, just like that. And then suddenly it's, oh no, we're screwed. And then, of course, the stoppage time happens. And, of course, I also had Frosinone draw no bet as well. And, of course, 4th goal for good measure to blow that bet as well. Finger. And guess what, Anthony? You got your 1 time on Everton. Congratulations. So if you want to point, don't point the finger at me because I am loyal to our sponsors and I place the parlay at Bet365. So you can yell at me all you want. I'm sorry that I'm loyal to our sponsors, but the finger really needs to be pointed at the guy wearing the Syracuse hat right now.
It's a bad habit that I thought Anthony would have kicked because he's done it a few times now.
He's too young. He's too young. He hasn't learned yet, and he'll never learn.
You know what, though? Let's hope we're in another situation like that this week. Maybe this time.
This is not losing.
I haven't even looked at the dots
yet. This is going to be a combined 13-0.
Oh, well, BJ, you could just kill it on the spot here.
Sure, Sheffield United 3-1.
No, man, 3-1. Is that the worst Premier League team of our lives?
I thought the last 2 matches they haven't been that bad, and against 2 of
they didn't score. They didn't get a shot against Arsenal.
But this is not Arsenal, Anthony. This is Wolves without Pedro Neto and a Wolves defense that still isn't really that good. So if you're ever looking for a time to back Sheffield United, who has scored in 6 of their 10 Premier League matches, Anthony, it's
if
not
you're ever looking for a time to back Sheffield United.
Is there anybody out there that's looking for a time to back Sheffield United?
If you just wake up in the morning.
All right. Well, I'll kill the parlay to start. So Sheffield United
3-1. I'm in.
Now, Dortmund plus 340. Yep.
Yeah, I think
they're playing Bayern. It's going to be a big match Saturday, 1:30 Eastern. Excited for it. I mean, I don't like Dortmund that much, but I hate Bayern even more. So embrace the variance, and I hope somebody out there has a Saarbrücken parlay Dortmund out there.
I forgot to mention it. Do you know what Bayern's XG was today against Saarbrücken?
0.5.
Yeah, I saw 0.99.
Yeah, it was less than 1. I saw 0.5 when I looked.
I was expecting like 4.8, and they just couldn't score. But no,
they got outplayed.
They played off the park.
I'll wrap up our already dead underdog parlay. It comes out to 70-1 with the tricky trees. Nottingham Forest plus 320, taking on Aston Villa in a classic buy low, sell high. Villa's defense still not worth trusting at these kind of prices. So Sheffield United, Borussia Dortmund in Der Klassiker, as it's known here in the States, and Nottingham Forest taking on Aston Villa. That's the 3-leg underdog parlay. All right, time for our favorite bets for this upcoming Premier League weekend. Anthony, you can go first.
Yeah, let's do the trees plus a half. Lost for me last
trees.
week. You guys took my two favorite picks. I'm going with Forest plus a half, plus 100 against Villa. Went into this, but I think Taiwo is uniquely suited to take advantage of what Villa's weakest defensive area is, and that's, allowing big scoring chances in behind. And I think Taiwo gets one, and it's enough to keep this game tight and get that half cover.
Newcastle, as high as plus 190 out there as a home underdog against Arsenal. It's pretty simple here. We talked a lot about it off the top. Wrong team is favored in this match of two teams vying for the title. BJ, your favorite bet?
Brentford plus 105 at home against West Ham. A really, really good spot here for Brentford, who profiles actually pretty well against teams in the bottom half of the table. Since the start of last season, against the bottom 10 teams in the Premier League, Brentford has a plus 18.5 expected goal differential in 26 matches. It's a good match for them tactically as well. Typically when they play teams where they know they're going to hold more possession, they like to set up in a 4-3-3 as opposed to their usual 3-5-2, which brings on another attacker and gives them more width as well. They did this against Burnley to great success. Also, Brentford is one of the best set-piece teams in the Premier League. They've been that way for about 2 years, while West Ham is one of the worst teams at defending set pieces. Also, not a great spot here for West Ham, who has had to play on Sunday against Everton, in the League Cup against Arsenal on Wednesday, and now has this match against Brentford on Saturday, and then a Europa League match on Thursday. The fixtures are piling up here for West Ham, and they haven't really rotated their squad either. So could see some tired legs out there from the Hammers. Projected Brentford at minus 137. So I like the Bees at plus 105.
There you have it. Another episode of Wondergoal in the books. We'll be back on Monday morning to preview the upcoming Champions League slate. So only a couple more days until you hear from us again. But until then, best of luck with all your bets in the Premier League and Europe and beyond this weekend. For BJ Cunningham, Anthony DeBundo, I'm Michael Leboff. Thank you to our sponsors, Bet365, and we will see you Monday morning.